actually Algeria. And I am a researcher at Centre National Recherche Scientifique in France and located in Grenoble. And I am also a baby AAS fellow. My talk will focus on the it's a question: do we need a synchrotron facility for Africa? And we'll try to answer this question all along these slides. This is a map showing you the actual situation regarding accelerators in the world. So this is more focused on synchrotron radiation facilities, or more sort of like synchrotron radiation facilities. And you can see, as usual, that Africa is missing. Well, it is there, but there are no infrastructure at all, no large, no middle, no small infrastructures at all. And as usual, it's lagging behind everyone. After this map, I would like to tell you what is a synchrotron radiation facility. So accelerators that produce intense beams of X-ray, ultraviolet or infrared light are called synchrotron radiation facilities, or commonly said light sources. These are electrons which are turning around this facility, which is a ring, and they are accelerated at the let's say at the speed of light, nearly the speed of light, and when they curve, they produce a light, and this light is used for basics and applied research in field ranging from physics to biology and technology. The worldwide synchrotrons are, as you saw the map, everywhere in the developed country mainly. And the third generation synchrotron lights are, for example, in Grenoble at the European Synchrotron Radiation Facility, in the US at APS, at SPRING in Japan. They are accelerating electrons up to 6, 7, and 8 GeV respectively. And more recently, ESRF and ALBA in Spain have been upgrading their facility to be the 4th generation type. What does it mean? It means that they produce a brighter and more coherent photon beam, enhancing the resolution of the microscope, because a synchrotron is nothing else than a microscope to go deep in the material and to look for the details of anything. And that with this brighter and more coherent photon, they make detection levels, and they augment the understanding of chemical and electromagnetic properties. And just to not to know that also that in China they are intending to get 2 4th generation synchrotron light sources. And you can go to this link and you get more details about these articles describing these 2 projects. The ESRF is important because it is a European facility, and it's a really a collaborative and regional at continental level facility. It has 22 partners, country partners, 13 are members and 9 are associate members, and South Africa is actually an associate member. There are about 7,000 scientific visits a year, 2,000 publications, and they could make lead to a Nobel Prize for 5 people. So from these users of ESRF, there were 5 Nobel Prize. 30% of the research at the ESRF is linked to industry, and we will have a look at this later. So just not to make the other infrastructure gels, these are also pictures of APS in US, ALBA Spain, SPRING in Japan, Diamond in UK, and Soleil in Paris, France. So a synchrotron for which science and for which purpose? The synchrotron and the X-ray are made to explore matter at all scale and down to the atomic scale, and for the understanding of life at the macromolecular level. It enables scientists to address the major global challenges facing our society. And you see here the list of all these challenges: health, innovation, overcoming disease and pandemics, materials for tomorrow, innovative and sustainable industry, planetary research, geoscience, environmental and climate changes, humanity and world culture heritage, and so and so. And then you have here the picture showing you the progress in the level of understanding of the ribosome structure of the DNA over a 20 years period. So you see here from 20 years ago until the level of the exploration of this ribosome. I can show you also some outstanding outcome from this synchrotron research. So, for example, in this slide, you see using the brightest X-ray ever developed. This is 100 billion times brighter than a hospital X-ray. The scientists were able to view how COVID-19 altered lung vessels. This is a new technology which is called tomography, and it allows scientists to dynamically view whole organ and also zoom into the level of individual cells down to 5 microns in diameters. In other sciences, like for example, this is a nice picture that I would like to show you. This in the bottom part, you can see the level of X-ray at the ESRI for showing the evolution of a baby crocodile, for example. Other example, this is in the left part, revealing the causes of darkening of fake gold decoration or medieval painting. And more interesting and maybe funny things they discovered when they analyzed the hair from the leak of Napoleon, that he may have been poisoned to death. So now that we saw some of example of some outstanding research at synchrotron, what is the links with the industry? Industry is increasingly accessing the light source facility for proprietary research. They do not require, we do not require from them to publish the results, since it is private research and it is industry. However, industry does have to pay part for the beam time they are delivered from synchrotron radiation facility. And this income which is generated is used to improve the performance of the beam lines to the benefit of both academic and industrial users. And substantial part of the facility's industrial activity comes from pharmaceutical companies that use beam lines for drug design. Industry carry out experiments for cosmetics, food product, plastic, paper making, environment, chemistry, construction, metallurgy, microelectronic, and many things that you are nowadays using with your iPhone or computer or whatever. Also, I would like to tell you that promoting scientific excellence and pioneering ambition projects require the development of advanced instruments and new technologies. This also facilitate collaboration institutes and laboratory that will be proud driving of innovation. This also brings tremendous benefit to society through knowledge transfer and increased expertise, and also drives strong economic returns at regional, national, and international levels. So all these facilities which are in developed country, they make people educate, they make people more skilled, they make knowledge transfer, know-how, things like that. And in return, there is a benefit for the country, there is a benefit for the region, and there is a benefit for the regional, for the continent too. Just to let you know that also many of the researchers in Africa, let's take the example of North Africa, for
Professor
example.
Malik, if we can wrap up, please, because we are short on time a little bit. So
yes,
you know,
okay. So let's show you this this slide, which is showing the requirement to build a synchrotron facility. So to build a synchrotron facility, you need 10 or hundreds of millions of dollars to construct it, and each beam lines in a synchrotron facility, one needs 20 to 50 beam lines, cost another 2 or 3 millions. Until now, these installations have been built by the scientific funding agencies, so the academies of governments of developed countries. They can be built also by collaboration between countries in a region like the European Synchrotron Radiation Facility in Grenoble. They are operated as infrastructure facilities available to scientists from university and research organization, but also to industry, as I showed you earlier. This is my last slide telling you where are we with the Pan-African Synchrotron. At its 32nd ordinary session in January 2018 in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, the African Union Executive Council called upon member states to support a Pan-African Synchrotron initiative. Just reminding you that more than 10 years ago, this idea of promoting a synchrotron radiation facility for Africa has been already discussed among African academic sciences, especially by Professor Felix Dakora. In 2015, a conference was held at ESRF, which led the foundation of the African Light Source, which was registered in South Africa. And in 2019, AAS formed a think tank for the African Synchrotron initiatives to promote the idea in Africa and to go on with that. So what are the next milestones? The next milestones are, first, the one question: are we still standing? Are we still willing to stand lagging behind all the other nations? So we need ambition for Africa. We need a huge leap. For this, we need African nations to champion the initiative. We need credit, support, budget, firm political decision, founding the projects, and go on with founding agency to get a project for Africa, because this is really important. And just to finish, showing you again what I have already shown. So promoting scientific excellence, we need development of advanced instrumentation, which drive innovation, which make more benefit economically to nations, to a regional regions, and the whole continent. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Malik. So before turning to our two other distinguished panel members here, if there is any quick question, because we are running out of time, unfortunately, here. So is there any quick questions or comments about the presentation of Professor Malik? Yes, sir. Can you please identify yourself? And, you know,
Hi, I'm Prof. Simon Nemutandani, the president of African Medical Regulatory Bodies and also the president of HPCSN and academic. My question will be on the last statement where she said, are we still standing? Probably because we have different competing interests and priorities in our African countries. And when I've checked, only 70 of these are in the world, and Africa would be lagging behind for a long time until we address what are the priorities in our environment. Not even that big machine. That one, it would be a budget for maybe a Eswatini. if you go that route. Other countries don't have that resources to go to that. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Maybe we can stop. I would like to keep interactive, so we will have more presentations. So I'm happy to hear your comments, and just let me emphasize and repeat what Fairouz mentioned, that the interest of this synchrotron, because it's, as she showed, it's multidisciplinary. It's not only physics oriented, it's up to all fields, medicine, pharmacy, and all this stuff. So it's very useful in all our research aspects, I would say. Maybe it is not, it doesn't have really the priority, as you said. It costs a lot. So this is maybe also the reason. However, let me remind that she mentioned in 2018, the African Union, and this is what I call it, interest from up to down now. The African Union asked the African president, African states, to think about building such synchrotron, because Africa is the only continent without this important machine. And then they delegate the AAS to be responsible for this mega project. And from here, the AAS started to take its serious. So it's not matter of interest of the GC of the AAS and their decision, because I don't think any of the member of the GC is specialized in this, but this was a delegation from the AU. Let me also mention that even before that, group of physicists, group of scientists, mainly physicists from Africa, was trying to initiate this project, and they formed a group of scientists, and they try to promote and to convince the leaders in Africa that this is very important project for Africa. And I have to appreciate their efforts. And I was imagining that maybe they are behind the delegations, the actions taken by the AU in 2018. I'm not sure. I don't know if there is any link. However, I would imagine also, as a group of physicists was trying to create and to make this project alive and realistic, as they would go via the AAS immediately after they got the delegation and started to process. Unfortunately, the coronavirus came in 2020, and I think at that time the AAS formed a committee. We call it African Synchrotron Initiative, ASI. Fairouz, Malik, and myself, and other members other colleagues are members of this committee. I think we started to work seriously a year ago. So almost 1 year we spent to prepare the ground for this project, to see, all the challenges, all the possibilities, all the, and make awareness as well, because it is very important to make awareness for the African user, for African scientists and African institutes about this project, because this project is for them. So we have almost completed a year in our ASI, and in fact, I met with Felix, the GC, the president of the AS, and I essentially reported our outcomes of this committee over this year, all the challenges we faced, and what we have achieved, if any. And we agreed that we submit a report very short, 1 or 2 pages at most. And we agreed that we have to go to second step. Let me tell you, and then I keep Malik to continue the story, that the most important and serious challenge we faced last year was from African scientists themselves. because as I mentioned, the group started early enough with self-effort and trying to promote. Then they are interested to continue independently and they wanted to do the project by themselves, although they are not really recognized foundation or governmental no authorization to really collect fundraising for this mega project or to contact countries in Africa. And AAS is, I think, eligible for that and is delegated from AU. However, since they are working almost now 5-6 years or more, they have a strong connections with a lot of organization and most of Europe, that when we started to talk about the AAS African Synchrotron, they said, work with them. They should work with the African Academy, not African Academy, work with the scientists without umbrella. Anyway, this is conflict. We lost a lot of time in this. And we are open, we swear that we are open to work together, but under the umbrella, which is a recognized umbrella, like African Academy, like AU, and so on. But now we need to proceed and now to go forward. And I will keep the future after Malik maybe give you some more.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dear Chair, Professor Mukhtar Toure, junior and senior colleagues present here. First of all, I wish really to express my gratitude to the organizers for their invitation and involving in this endeavor. I wish just to respond, if I may, to my colleague here, the president of the African Association for the organization that you represent. I wish just to respond by giving or sharing with the colleague this typical example. South Africa is hit by the HIV robustly relatively to all the other African continent countries. The HIV is a priority, if I may follow. But nonetheless, the South African government came in and proposed to host the SKA, the Square Kilometer Array, the largest by any mean infrastructure that ever the scientific community and the technology community has implemented. You may say why the South African government has decided to embark in that endeavor of the Square Kilometer Array for space technologies and so on, and not to deal with HIV. It has had to make such a decision because my dear colleague, the SKA has to reverberate in a different manners, not only to to advance the know-how or knowledge production in terms of space technology and cosmology, but also to ensure that space satellites basic technologies are advanced, also that all of us we need. Our cell phones that we use, when there is a cut of a problem with the fiber optics, it is the satellite that we use, my dear colleague, yourself and myself and others are using to get connected and to ensure that the units in the hospital are operating accordingly. So in addition to that, there are secondary sectors such as electronics and the local add value to a number of technologies. So I don't think that we should, see this initiative of the Pan-African Synchrotron initiative as a non-priority. Yes, you are absolutely right. Health-wise, it's a priority. Water is a priority, and so on. But there is, the policymakers are right to make such a kind of wise choices. Nonetheless, colleagues, I hope that, my colleague, you are a little bit convinced that we should not put all our baskets in one. All our funds in one basket, but rather consider the different parts accordingly. Nonetheless, colleagues, allow me just to mention that as early as 1999, during the first AMCOST, or before the first AMCOST, the African Ministerial Organization of the NEPAD in that time, before that meeting, a group of scientists and in particular members of the diaspora came in and wanted to involve, to contribute to Africa and to advance the science in Africa. And they have proposed the creation of a synchrotron. And among them, the Director General of Science and Technology currently, Dr. Film Jwara. And it was in 1999 that the AMCOST has considered indeed this initiative as a priority. As a priority, colleagues. Why? Because the heme of malaria, the first time that the how can I say, the mechanism of the malaria has been identified, it was through the synchrotron studies. And it is now that we know that what is the mechanism to stop the malaria. And the drug which has been developed recently is due to the early investigation using a synchrotron. So give back to Caesar, which belongs to Caesar, and to Cleopatra, which belongs to Cleopatra. We are not targeting to have a synchrotron in Africa for knowledge production. No, it is not only that. It is to have excellence and to have a platform, a mechanism to ensure that we will be able to produce and tackle and resolve our local problems by say. And in that regard, colleagues, in particular for the ARISE fellows, I am extremely delighted we have a number of ARISE fellows. Excellence-wise, you are obliged to work on this, within this and to use these platforms of advanced at the frontier, advanced science and technology. You are obliged to use them. One. Second, because they are multidisciplinary, they will allow you to, how can I say, to meet all of you together. Some are in the health sector, some in the agri sector, some in the materials and so on. But these synchrotron platforms will allow you to meet and to ensure that you will be also translate your R&D to something which benefit the society. So it is extremely critical, colleagues. It's extremely critical to remind ourselves why South Africa has put $1.8 billion in a project like SKA. That it has attracted the European, the US, China, Japan, and other partners to come in because there are quite a number of derivatives behind these projects. So it is necessary to have such a highly advanced facility in Africa. We cannot continue like this. China and India, for example, these are nations which are equivalent to Africa. We reached 1 billion in terms of population, and we are the youngest continent in the world. More than 68% have less than 25 years old. This is, how can I say, this youth coming in do need such a kind of advanced technologies because it's not only the synchrotron beam that we are interested in, it's the IT, the artificial intelligence, which is behind it and so on. So colleagues, in particular, the emerging scientists and the young workforce of tomorrow of Africa, those who are supported by ARISE, please ensure to use these facilities, and the African Academy of Science and ASI in particular is facilitating such access to the ESRF in Grenoble, to Soleil in Paris, Saclay, in China, in, how can I say, in Japan, in particular in China, where there's some new, completely advanced, the fourth generation of synchrotrons. Thank you.
That's true.
Thank you very much for the panelists. In fact, there is no doubt that the synchrotron facility is crucial for the advancement of science in Africa. However, I would like to perhaps enlarge the discussion a little bit to include other sorts of infrastructures, like, for example, I don't know, a supercomputer infrastructure or something. You know, what other kind of infrastructure are needed in South Africa, in Africa, and what are the mechanisms and how do we finance this kind of initiatives? I mean, the synchrotron is a fantastic initiative, but how do we go about who is going to, how do you going to get the funds for this? Thank you.
Let me comment that this will come by product. You cannot have such advanced machine and high tech and important research without really all the infrastructures supported this machine. We will need very advanced IT, computer simulations. All this will be developed naturally.
Yes.
Thank you so much, dear Chair, and thanks a lot, Shaban. In effect, we are far from the critical mass in Africa, scientifically speaking. One, and second is that the bulk of mobility and exchange, if you take the north of Africa, is mainly with Europe and in particular France. If you take Nigeria, is mainly with the UK, US, and to a certain extent with China. If you take Kenya, it's mainly with the UK. If you take South Africa, it's mainly with the UK. But the mobility or the cooperation exchanges within the African continent is nearly zero before 1999. It's there where the AMCOST, the Association of the Minister of Science and Technology, led by, in that time, by Honorable Ben Gubane, the Minister of Science and Technology of South Africa. In that time, that, how can I say, AMCOST has decided to create programs. And they have created what we call the African Laser Center, which is a network indeed of laser centers all over the African continent. And they came together, and indeed the South African government in that time has sponsored, and other countries came in. Just to mention that, in effect, laser manufacturing is a derivative of this initiative. And now you have laser manufacturing capabilities in Dakar, in Senegal, in Ghana, at Lafok, and in Kenya, and in North of Africa. In fact, a number of French companies are using this laser expertise, which were developed by, how can I say, through the African Laser Center. Also, there is the SKA, as I mentioned. There are dishes from the bottom here of South Africa, and Botswana, Namibia, up to Ghana. And this is a wonder. This is a success story indeed. 1.8 billion is not lost for nothing. No way. We will definitely get from it. And how can I say? Also, AFCON, the African network for nuclear energies and accelerators. Just to mention that because this initiative, Africa, believe it or not, my colleagues, Africa is the world producer and supplier of sodium-22 in the world. They came with the technology, because this network, they came with the technology to produce radioisotope of sodium-22 at an extremely very cost-effective. Nobody worldwide can compete with it, because this network, which was initiated somehow by a willingness of a government. So it is important. And also the CHPC, as our chair has, and the program director has mentioned, the Center for High Computational, High Performance Computation. It's a must. It's not a luxury now to have high and intense computational units. It's a must. It's like water or air that we are breathing. And therefore, South Africa came with one, and Morocco now currently in the north of Africa is coming with one, and hopefully in Egypt. And therefore, we will have these triangular high performance capabilities in computation. So I think, how can I say, what is sure is that we need to also stress on the South-South cooperation. And really China in this regard is a pivotal component. Thank you. Something to say?
No, about China, we are using now some steps forward in future. So maybe you heard Felix mention that there is some scholarship for PhD students. And in fact, we would like now to use this, or some of this scholarships, in fact, to arrange and to prepare for future users for our machine. We will not wait until we have a machine and then we bring users and try to bring PhD students. No, we start from now with this kind of offer from China to prepare or to prepare our user and to provide scholarship for some couple of our students. So those will be really taking serious as a first step towards African users for our future machine. Also, In China, they have some suggestion about the machines that we may use. We don't need to go to the the latest version of synchrotron. Sesame, for example, in Jordan, which is made in Middle East, was based on a machine provided or given by Germany. And this was a good starting point, because it's still in the starting point, especially in place, first time to do such activities. Maybe they don't need the most advanced and the technology machine, but maybe some familiar machine that they can start with. And then we will have an upgrade, like what have done in Sesame. After a couple of years, CERN and other foundation, they are upgraded it. So we are thinking carefully about now the offers given from different Royal Society, for example, China and other places. I'm very happy that still, although I said in the beginning, we have difficulties to convince some foundation, some organization in Europe, because they said you should come as a one vote from Africa. Africa should speak with one. And we said we are happy to collaborate. But anyway, still we have a partners like Royal Society in UK or in Edinburgh or China or Japan. They are willing to support and to help. And I think with Felix now we are preparing really to jump in advance to send the student to get not just the training. In fact, I was also planning to make training workshop, and send a group of not only students, now even faculty. They went to some machines to spend some time there to be trained as well, not only waiting for students who will get PhD. However, all this can be done in parallel. We have to think carefully about the offers given for kind of second-hand machine. If it is possible, it works with us lifetime of this machine. It gives us 5-10 years, or we will immediately after 1 or 2 years, we need to replace it. So we need to think carefully about this. We need to really work with our partners willing to help. And another point I suggested to Felix is now to start to communicate and to discuss with NASAC. NASAC is the academy of all academies in Africa, network of scientific academies in African Academy of Science. So it's very important, instead of talking to one by one, we go to, I went to my Egyptian Academy of Science, and I told them, they said, oh yes, very interesting, give us information, details, and so on. And I am sure any academy, but it's better to approach them via the NASAC, and the NASAC should be approached by AAS. So kind of, we have to start really, not because we spent a year trying to, to make awareness, to try to contact one by one, and our colleagues try to make some activities to show the importance of this project, and to collect, kind of support from relevant organizations. But now I think next year, if we wanted to continue, it's no longer, it will be African Synchrotron Initiative, but we have to go to second stage, which is planning. And as I said, PhD students, training, visits, and NASAC communications, and asking for proposals. Who is interested from African Academy of Science interested in this project? We need to count. Maybe we'll get no country interested, or maybe we get all the countries interested. We need to understand the ground at this level as well. So I think this is.
Shaban,
yes.
can you leave the room to other panelists to speak?
I was you're just reading my mind. I was just going to ask, are you still there, Professor Malik?
Yeah, I'm here.
Are you there? Yeah, because we cannot see your picture here. But anyway, so you're there. So do you have a comment? Because I want to turn to the floor to see our colleagues, what do they have to say? But if you have a quick comment, Professor Malik, and then I will.
Yeah, no, I don't have a quick comment. I have comments, but I would like to say that I don't totally agree with this plan that Shaban is talking about, because when we are thinking of this this idea of a synchrotron since more than 10 years. And if I am working in a large infrastructure like CERN, so when we started to think about the discovery of the Higgs boson in 2000, which was discovered in 2012, it was discussed already in the 18th. In the 19th already the project was set, and we knew that we wanted to build it, and we had to gather all the people that wanted to build these things, and funding agencies, politics and government and things like that. And I think that we are now ready to do such a thing. We are not going to discuss, we are not going to educate, we are not going to again having workshop or schools or whatever, because there exists already. There is CISAMI, there is CISA, there is ICTP, there is CERN, there is BNL, there are schools of accelerator everywhere in the world, and African can go to these schools. So the ASI should not just focus on this. We are not here to focus on educating African to do synchrotron radiation facilities, physics or research, because these people exist already. Now we need to decide whether we need it. If we need this facility, then we have to decide that we have to build it. And if we decide we have to build it, then it is time now to make all the funding agencies in Africa, all the government, all the nation aware that this project will be done, and we have to decide to do it. It's not time to educate people. People are already educated. There is already a community.
Okay, so Professor, okay.
In parallel, and
Yeah.
I said we have to contact NASAC and all the academic, all the African academies, because they are our main funding agency. Before going to
the
any
academy are not funding agencies. Sorry,
yes,
Shaban.
Fairuz,
No,
I
they are
understand,
not
but the
funding
academy,
agencies. Sorry,
the
they are
academy is a
science.
stakeholders. Just let me complete my sentence. The academy is a stakeholders, and if we do not get positive response and confirmation from some of the African academies in different countries, we cannot even go to fundraising by any means.
I have to go to Professor here because he has raised his hand first, and then
Please, I think don't misunderstand me. It's important. But the question, as she indicated, we are taking generation to move. Why are we taking so long to move? It's the nature of Africans. We always discuss and discuss and discuss and even plan. In Zulu proverb, cowards waste time in demonstrating how they will fight instead of going to fight. Now, you need to get a mechanism of convincing policymakers and funders to support this important project. You have to entice policymakers and funders. How can it tie to what they want? And I'll give you an example. Most African presidents, when they are sick or when they want treatment, they go to Europe. Why can't they be treated here in Africa? It's because scientists are not coming up to say, please, we are there, we can do it here. It's only in one country where I have been recently, in Cuba. Fidel Castro was treated in Cuba by Cuban doctors. Our president, they die in flight as they're going to Europe, be it India, China, USA. They don't believe in their own. They don't consult you for advice and whatever. They believe in something coming from Europe, whereas it's here with us. All I'm saying is, let's move with the speed. Once we, remember, this has been there, politicians have changed positions. Funders' priorities have moved because we are taking time still planning and thinking what to do. Thank you.
I fully agree with you. And let me add also that if we lost the chance that Felix is the president of the AAS, this project will will be I don't want it to say will die again, because Felix is really behind it. So we need really to work fast. And first of all, we don't have time to lose it. I'm saying all the time that we need really to act as fast as possible in all parallel directions. And as you said, I cannot, or Felix cannot even go to presidents of African countries to tell them contribute, but we can contact the African Academies of Science, and African Academy of Science is connected with ministers of science, and the Minister of Science, they are eligible to go and to get the approval of their country presidents or whoever.
They were first there.
Thank you so much, our main contributor and the panelists. First and foremost, we need to address the issue of geopolitical difficulties that we have. One, even mobility between our countries, just to come to South Africa, it's a hell, because Kenyans require a visa to come to South Africa. And we are talking about African Academy of Science, a continental movement that we need to address so that globally and regionally, we accept each other as a family of Africans. Once you have accepted that, it would also be impossible just to disregard our scientists. We have got very highly specialized and highly trained scientists and doctors. Saturn is a good facility. It has been demonstrated that we need it. But the question is, if I'm a scientist in Kenya and I would like to get to where Prof is it that easy? That's the question we should be addressing. Otherwise, we shall continue generating good knowledge, but it will be consumed by foreigners who then extract a lot of money from us, even to be treated outside, as we are saying. So I think we need to reverse this, and I think it is high time then we start dialoguing with our heads of state, that in terms of African scientists, at the very least, the mobility across, within and across, should be made flexible enough so that there is no restriction or even condemnation of ourselves.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm Prof. David Doduahin from the University of Ghana. It's quite interesting with the initiative. It will interest you to know, in 2019, I hosted the second African Life Source meeting in Ghana, where Felix was there with Royal Society, and there are other strategies that are going on. And I like the move that has been going on. It was during that time, Ghana's president, I don't know if you saw it online, we had that initiative to put it on the agenda of AU, because we saw that we don't want it to be one country that is going to host. For instance, Ghana is going to host the synchrotron facility. It should be just like what we have in South Africa, for the kilometer square array project initiative. So we think that AAS has a stronger position, especially if AAS is seen as the frontier of the science or the phase of science on the continent to push this agenda, which I work with a synchrotron when I did my PhD in Italy. My lab has a synchrotron facility in Trieste. I worked in the synchrotron facility in France, in Grenoble. We have connections with Sesame. We have other ones. We just had a conference that ended in November that we have already been doing this. So the part that we have been able to do, especially in Ghana, we have something with our ministry, MESTI, Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology, to put this agenda on the plate. We tried getting that on the UN, the UNGA that just finished. There was a session that the president was supposed to do that. And then we also gave some information to the ministry to be delivered in the conference that is about to happen with the US Africa that is going on. So there are some agenda that is already on the continent it will be prudent to put all of them together to have a drive. You tend to have some young fellows who have also the edge and the speed to be moving on. I think I work a lot with Malik, and he knows about this, that we can also help drive this whole agenda, with, even through the conferences that is being organized, and then already the what is called the LAMP project, the light project that is already going on. So these are some partnerships that are already on, that we can just put them together. You already have a very strong position as the face of AS, as the face of science on the continent. It's just that we've had some discussions with some governments, only that no one wants to be, I want to do it, because it has to be an African thing. So that it's not one country and it's left onto you, right? So I like this session, and I'm really happy that I'm here, and we are open to still work on some of the initiatives and then be able to join you.
Can you remind me?
May I give?
Thank you very much.
My name is David Doduahin. Yes, David Doduahin. I was the host of the African Light Source in University of Ghana.
Okay.
Yes, so yes.
May I give a short answer?
By the way,
We can take questions and
yeah, just we have up to 1:30, I was told, so we still have time for questions. So, Professor.
May I give a short answer, please?
Yeah, but sure. Okay. Do you mind? Okay. Yes, go ahead, Professor Malik.
Yes, thank you. So I would like to address my thanks to the speaker that I don't know the the name, but yeah, you're right. But one thing that could be done also, it's just not to think of a regional or a facility at the continent level, but also at a national level. Like you saw in that map, there are many synchrotron facilities which are national facilities, but they are also driving international users. So could be, for example, if Ghana is championing a facility in Ghana, it could be something that could be afforded by Ghana in the half of the cost, and the rest will be provided by the other users from the regional part. This is how it works in Europe. I mean, when you build a machine, whatever is the machine, for example, the ILC, International Linear Collider, that was planned in Japan, the intent was that it is built in Japan. However, Japan would only pay the half of it, the machine, the underground, and all this facility, and everything that is the implementation of the infrastructure, the instrumentation, all the technology around the computing, whatever, would be provided by the users, and the users are international. So could be a national project, and could be a smaller project than what I showed, like European Synchronization Facility. We don't need in Africa to have a SRF. We maybe probably need many national facilities like Soleil or like Elba or things like that, which could be also driving a huge community, an international community, in Pan-African community, and everyone would profit from it, and everyone would put money on it. That is my point.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm really happy to see that you are coming to some sort of a meeting of mind. Thanks to David. I think your statement gives me the impression that we're coming to some common understanding of what needs to be done. I think we should remind ourselves that actions need to be linked to the context. We are not China. China is one country, one system. They have one center of decision. Europe is a well-advanced regional setup. Okay, we are different. We are 54, 57, not well connected. So I think we have to really to think that we need to think the best way of taking action and decisions. I think what is refraining us is to decide to move forward. I have the impression that we are still in this mindset of survival and lack of ambitions, looking most of the time for surviving of what we need to do today and not thinking of tomorrow. We cannot afford having a vision and an ambition for this country, for this continent, no matter the cost. Synchrotron is just one example. I think we have so many other needed to be connected to this moving, fast-moving world. We cannot afford staying behind. We have the means, we have the capacities, but we lack of strategy to move forward. That is what is missing, and that is preventing us really.
So how do we move forward? What practical steps?
Practical step is we don't need to be 44 together to move. We need to have champions. We need to have 5, 10 countries. That's all. If we have committed 10, 5 critical mass, we move, and the rest will follow. If they see benefit of the actions. But I think we need to have an overview of what is needed for this continent to use the best frontier science to leapfrog and to advance. Let's not stick to the money. The money is not important.
I agree. Money is not the main issue.
Okay. When we have the idea, when we have the drive, when you have the commitment, we have the ambition, everything is possible. Thank you.
I will take 3 more questions here and then go to the panel. So.
Thank you very much, Chair. It's my honor to join the family of AS. And my name is Li Fengting. I'm from Tongji University, based in Shanghai. I have cooperated with the university in Africa for more than 20 years. I also worked in Nairobi for more than 1 year. So I built a link for the university. I'm sorry, my counselor, he didn't come this morning, but I can give you some figure for the South-South cooperation. And I remember Chinese government told about 150 billion, 15 billion US dollar for the South cooperation. It's under the under the China Africa Foundation, and it's also under the Ministry of Science and Technology, Ministry of the Commerce. So there are a lot of China for the cooperation to apply the funds for the cooperation with the university in the industry. That's the about the social cooperation. Here, I can give you a figure. About 40 years ago, I think in China, only 1% of the young people, they can go to the university. Now it's about 40% of the young students, they can go to the university and the colleges. In China, we have 2,500 universities. This year, we have the students, they graduate from the university after bachelor, master, and PhD. The figure is the 10 million graduate students. So you can imagine it 5 years later, 10 years later, their role in the society. I'm from Tongji University. We have about 40 students, half for master, half for bachelor, half for master and PhD students. Around our campus, we build a high-tech park and for the innovation, for the design. And the last year, the turnover is $7 billion US. You can think most of the contribution for the university, for the local economy. So I think for the university model in China is a very good, very useful for lots of African university. Maybe later I can invite some professors, some fellows come to Tongji University. So the population for Africa is 1.4 billion. It's the same with China, but the Africa is 3 times bigger than China. So I think for Africa, you have the big potential for the young youth, big potential for the resource. I think if we can train the talents for the engineering, for the doctor, for the master, 10 years, 20 years, you have a big change. 30 years ago, I share a small room with my parents, 11 square meter, no sanitation, no tap water. That's the same. But after 30 years, we saw the big change in China. So I think for Africa, for Chinese university, it's open for all disciplinary to open for African students. And the Chinese offer the full scholarship. I remember that's about 30,000 full scholarship for African students. In the past 10 years, I enroll, I think about more than 500 students from different countries in Africa. I think the model for the economy, the model of the education is very good for of China. It's helpful for African countries. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor. We have 15 more minutes, so I will ask the intervenients to be a little bit brief, please. Yeah, thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sidiba. I am an associate professor from the National School of Engineers in Bamako and an ERISE fellow. Most of the comments I wanted to make, were already made, so I will be very short. I just want to make a suggestion. This is something that I see from in many countries in Africa that I wonder why is it such a way. We tend to always rely on government. Even the organizations such as AAS and people want always to go through government. So if you look at the technologies that we have today, if you want to have a synchrotron facility, so why can't AAS and other organizations, the people who are in this field and who understand this field, try to do crowdfunding? If you go, you explain to even students in universities that there is this project, that we want to build this facility that will improve health, that will improve many other aspects of sciences. You can, people can contribute 500 Rand or 200 SEPA or 100 euros. It can at the end of the road, it can build the facility, and then the government and other big donors can also bring something to the bucket so that it can start. But I just don't think we should always wait to government, especially in a very volatile and unstable environment where the political system is not stable. So that's the comment I would like to add. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. The last comments from Professor here, and then I will go for our panelists for closing comments. We have like 10 minutes, 12 minutes.
Thank you very much. I think let's look outside the box. My name is Mafungo Yami, NRF Research Chair at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. At the African Union, there's NEPAD. There's a Center for African Technologies. And there are other things which they've done which are continental wide, like gene transfer for mosquito control, drones, and all these things. So I think our idea is just to facilitate, is to talk to the right people, not just arguing like we're the only science voice in the continent. There are other people who are doing work. And if we take care of NEPAD and the Center for Technologies for Africa, and to tell as president to meet with those guys and talk about this project, it will be elevated to African Union.
Thank you very much, Professor. And so for closing, exactly. We will have, we have 10 minutes. So please, I will ask the panelists to be brief for their closing comments. So we'll start with Professor Malik in France.
Oh, hey, I would like to close the, I would like to say at the end that I strongly believe that this facility is really of utmost importance. We should have a synchrotron in Africa, and we have already a user community. We have people skilled. We have people who are traveling very far to go to do their research in Europe, in US, at CISAMI, and from everywhere from Africa. So this community exists. But the thing is that they do their research, they go to Europe, and they don't come back because there is nothing in Africa to attract them back, to do their research, to continue their work, to make Africa progress, and to have benefit from what they are doing in Europe or elsewhere. So it's really, really important that we start from now on to think of contacting funding agency, and funding agency are not the academies or learned society. Funding agency are government. Thank you.
In fact, there were several interesting questions. So if there is any chance to quickly respond, for example, mobility between African countries and how difficult that to travel from. I think this is natural because we don't have a lot of activities. So there is no flow really of scientists going here to force the governments to take an action. If we have really projects like this in different disciplines, in different African countries, they will get used that there is a scientist are traveling to work here and there. Let me give you an example. CAF, for example, for football, not for science. In Egypt, they give kind of diplomatic, I don't know, passport and visa to enter from, I don't know, from online or anyway, this condition will be one of our choosing for the hosting country, for example. Will require this to facilitate really the mobility and the entrance to all African to the country to do their work. This is there one question about mobility. About do we need governments? Do we need academies? Should we go direct to fundraising? I'm not with this point because we cannot go to fundraising, tell them we will do synchrotron, where we don't know it. It has to be in some African countries, and we have to get the approval of these countries. We are not putting some small things here or there. It's a synchrotron. It needs infrastructure. It needs preparation. It needs approval from the country. So again, I am with you that we have to go NEPAD, NISACA, all this scientific representative of African countries. Those will understand our points. Those easy to communicate them, and then they take it and delegate it upstairs to the president to get the approval. I'm happy that we have our colleague from Ghana. I understand Ghana is almost the first African country committed and showed interest in this. I'm pretty sure South Africa, Egypt, Rwanda, we will easily find 5, 6, 7 countries. And as our colleague said, if we have 5 to 10 countries committed, this will be the pushing or the force, for the project to continue. And I am really hoping that AS and the Felix started to communicate or give us delegated the committee of the African synchrotron to send the letters and to ask NISAC and NEPAD and the other agency to start to get some, to check and to get some response of some African countries. If we have couple of those countries committed, I think will make a lot of difference and will give us a hope to continue. Last point about this project, it could be national project or should be Pan-African project. Our point is Pan-African because this project is beyond the scope and the ability of one country. Europe itself started synchrotron with European synchrotron, not just one. Nowadays, every country has a synchrotron. Okay, we need really to do why we should do something different. If any country, South Africa or Egypt or Morocco, wanted to build, please go build. But AAS and all this African consortium is trying to help at least one big synchrotron for all Africa, and we try to facilitate it and try to make it accessible to all our people.
Thanks. I would like just to add on what it was mentioned by Farouz and Shaban. First of all, to my colleague who mentioned the mobility within the visa aspect. In fact, in 2017, the African Union and the presidents have decided in Addis Ababa to address this issue of mobility and passport and to create, and I think the Honorable Kagame has proposed to create a special office in the visa section of each embassy or high commission of any African country within Africa, a section which deals with the specific treatment of application of scientists of their visa applications. One, and second, Honorable Kagame has proposed in that time that any scientific infrastructure bought from overseas should be tax-free. No, any commodity related to science and technology should be tax-free. I think the implementation, how far, certainly in Rwanda, it has been implemented. Other parts of the African continent, I don't know, but there is definitely a decision which has been taken at the African Union. That's one. The second, in terms of our colleague, one of our colleagues has mentioned it takes quite a long time to an initiative to be implemented. Yes, indeed, the African light source was born in 1999. It is true, and it was mentioned indirectly by Shaban. It was a group of academics. They have no direct interaction with the policymakers and the decision makers. So the African Academy of Science has been mandated in 2015 in Dakar to come and to speak and to defend this idea of the light source, and therefore the ASI. And now the Academy is taking, has taken the lead that it has certainly likely to be successful. The other point, which is a weakness of this STI landscape in Africa, you may say South Africa, for example, or the bulk of African continent are spending less than 1% GDP in science and technology. It's only South Africa which is close to 1%. Why, colleagues? Why? Because since the inception of the Department of Science and Technology, by the way, initially the Department of Science and Technology was called DAXT, the Department of Art, Culture, Science and Technology. Then it moved to the Department of Science and Technology, DST. Then now it's Department of Science and Innovation. It shows you that in fact the department related in South Africa to science and technology is changing the name because it's adapting itself to the new realities, something which is living. And why that, colleagues? Because since its inception after the new democratic South Africa in 1994, all the DGs, all the director generals who serve the Minister of Science and Technology and the Deputy Minister of Science and Technology, all of them, they were scientists by background. A current one is the Dr. Film Jawara. He's an expert in lasers. And you do understand why the African Laser Center came out. And in Algeria and Morocco, you have the same thing. So therefore, those who have the ears of the high office are scientists. If I may take China, colleagues, you will tell me how it came that China has reached and succeeded to implement an ISS, a Chinese ISS. space station so fast and so robustly? Why, colleagues? Why China has implemented the fastest trains, TGVs, and so on? Why? For the simple reason, within the 11 members of the Politburo, 7 of them are engineers in the previous ones and the new one, colleagues. So at the policymaker, at the top level decision level, you have scientists who are close to understand what is the business is and to influence the top, the chief, how can I say, the major decision maker in it. So we need to have scientists close to the, to the ears of the final decision policymakers and so on. And well, I think the champions we have Ghana, we have Rwanda, we have Morocco, we have Egypt, we have South Africa, we have Botswana, we have the critical mass to embark, in particular now under the framework and the leadership of the African Academy of Science. That is why we are obliged to succeed. And I will just end, my dear chair, program director, telling that there is a say in Arabic which says, إن الوقت كالسيف إن لم تقطعه يقطعك. Time is like sword. If you don't cut it, it will cut you. So, le temps c'est comme une épée. Si vous le coupez pas, il vous coupe. And
Chinese as well.
I wish next time maybe.
El tiempo es como una espada. Si no la corta, va a cortar tú.
And
Spanish.
what is sure is that the critical mass, as Fairuz has mentioned, we have an outstanding fellows, younger, rising, emerging scientists. I mean, Arise, it's extremely competitive. It was extremely competitive to have these fellows to come in. And I can assure you, some of the Nobel Prizes in the future from Africa would come from this Arise program. And last not least, colleagues, I would like just to mention that this synchrotron initiative, it's not to educate, it's to R&D translate and find solution to our society. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor Maazza. In closing, please join me. First of all, thank you very much for attending this panel discussion, and please join me in thanking our 3 panelists here, Professor Shaaban Khalil, Professor Malik Maazza, and Professor Fairuz Malik. Thank you very much, all of them. Thank you. Thank you. And thank you very much. Bye-bye.